It's kind of the end of an era right now, Jesse. It's last day in Oklahoma. How you feeling?
Oh, nervous, scared, excited, anxious, just the emotions, man. It's exciting. I'm going to bigger and better things, but like I said, gonna miss Oklahoma a little bit. Loved, seeing this state and what it has to offer. There's, more personal reasons as to why we're leaving, but very excited. I can't say enough positive things about how excited I am to move and start doing this podcast from a different location now.
Welcome to the Circus Catch.
I'm always up for the challenge.
Are you kidding me? Guess who called that one?
I am dubbed the Houston player hater. I don't have time to believe
You got butthurt.
What is he thinking?
Is he the greatest of all time?
It is like magic.
Welcome to the last show of February. We're getting back to our roots today, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. My name is Jordan Wright. No guests, no additional hosts, just a two-man show. Exactly how we started this thing. And my original co-host, Jesse Larson, is here with me today. Jesse, thank you for being on the show today.
Good to bring it back, Jordan. Just the two of us.
Just the two of us. I can't sing any more than that. I'll get in trouble. I know I will. I'm going to get sued for something. I'm surprised we haven't already.
You were in a band, so it's okay.
That doesn't make it any better. That makes it worse. That means I should know the rules. But anyways, so we are broadcasting from our original stations from Tulare, California, and from Stillwater, Oklahoma. This will be the last show that we are both broadcasting from these spots.
Indeed, I'm making the move from Stillwater to Madison, Wisconsin for a new job. I'm out of here in March. So this will be my last show for the next few weeks, but officially my last one with you guys while being in Stillwater. Super hyped to get the move on, but I'm gonna miss Stillwater a little bit. I can't lie. I do love it here. It's time to go. Time to move on. Time to get a bigger, better job, and that's what I did.
Hey, congrats, man! I'm happy for you. Happy for the new job that you landed, and that the family's going to be moving and everything. Gonna be real excited for you guys going forward. Going to a really, really cold place in Wisconsin. Let's talk about a place where things are perpetually cold, it seems like. Let's go to Edmonton on the other side of the border, where we encounter the Edmonton Oilers, who were on a historic run, and we did see that historic run come to an end. Let's talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, man, the All-Star break, it really kills you, Jordan. We've seen it in other sports. Edmonton riding into the break, 16 straight wins, and then they win. Their first game out of the break was against the defending champs, who knocked them out of the playoffs last year in Las Vegas. And the Knights, they really came out and punched them in the mouth. And I think the All-Star break just gave that little lull for Edmonton, and it knocked them out of rhythm. The gunslinging was over, the slap shotting, and they had the puck in their zone for most of the games that they were winning. But coming out of the break, just a little flat, and Vegas took advantage, and poof, there goes the record tire.
So close to seeing history be made.
Yeah.
But one thing that nobody can knock is the absolute tear that Connor McDavid is on. We talked about it recently as well. What sets this guy apart from the rest of the league?
He is so good with the puck, and you could say that about any NHL player, right? Obviously, they made it to this level. They're going to be the best in the world at controlling the puck and doing what they want with that with that puck. So I think what sets Connor apart is his decision-making. He's so smart. He knows what he's going to do 20 feet, 30 feet before he actually gets to the spot on the ice that he's going to make something happen with it. Guy can shoot like nobody's business, but right now, his real tear, most of his points, not most of them, but a lot of his points are coming via assists to his teammates. And Edmonton's got some guys that can really score. So all Connor has to do is know where he's going with the puck, passing it off, and he's getting it done. Obviously, in hockey, excuse me, you get a lot of deflections and stuff, and you can get assists and goals like that, but that's really not his game. He's so smart with the puck and knows what to do with it.
Dude, I love this theme of hockey, man. Let's keep it rolling. You got the Buffalo Sabres sweater on. You got me really pumped for it. Let's talk about this wild Canucks game, if you will.
Yeah,
A 10-7 score. I don't think I've ever seen that.
it's happened before. I mean, I've seen it a couple times, but man, it is kind of rare, looking at a hockey game being in the upper single digits. Franchise record for Minnesota, 10 goals in a single game. It's the first time we've seen 3 players in it with a hat trick in a single game since 1992. So, the recent uptick in scoring in the NHL has been pretty noticeable, but not quite to this level. I mean, we just saw Dallas score 9 the other day, and keep in mind, Vancouver is the best team in the league too, and they gave up 10 goals. So, any given night, obviously, they still scored 7, but Minnesota scored 7 in the final 20 minutes. So it's unreal. It was one of the craziest games that I think I've ever seen. Up there, definitely a top 5 wild type game, but I love to see it. I think Minnesota can use this as a catapult to get into that second wild card spot in the West. And I don't think this is indicative of Vancouver not being the best team in the league. They're still 5 points clear of the second place in the league, so the President's Trophy is theirs to lose. But still, such a wild game. No pun intended.
We can't get around the pun. That's the best word to describe it.
Well, in transition, Jordan, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention another record. Just like the Oilers coming up a little short, South Carolina women's basketball, they did not come up short. 43 straight SEC regular season wins. This team is, man, they are something else in the game of women's basketball, just basketball in general. They're undefeated. Last team in men's or women's D1 basketball to be undefeated, and setting records left and right, just unstoppable. Dawn Staley is well on her way to be in the conversation for top 5 women's coaches of all time, if she's not already there in some people's mind. I know a lot of South Carolina fans already have her there, but man, this team is electric when they're on the court.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were saying last year, right? South Carolina dominating the whole thing, and it didn't end up turning into a championship last year, but they got a better shot than I think anyone in the game right now.
Yeah, it's not really even close right now. I think it's every single AP poll this year, they've been 35 first place votes to none for a single team, other than maybe the first couple weeks when UConn and a couple others, NC State had a couple first place votes, and of course Iowa is always going to be near that talk with Caitlin Clark and what she does with the basketball. But I think this is just really South Carolina, everybody else. I think it's really at that stage. Like, we can talk about it all day, but at the end of the day, South Carolina is the best team in the country, and it's not particularly close.
Absolutely. And you just mentioned Caitlin Clark. Set a new record. Let's talk about her. Let's give her flowers. Beat Kelsey Plum's record, all-time leading scorer in women's D1 history. And don't look now, Jesse, but she is within 100 points of passing Pistol Pete Maravich for men's and women's all-time leading scorer.
Yeah, and I mean, the range that this girl has. I'm not a huge Caitlin Clark fan. I'm not an Iowa fan by any stretch of the imagination, but you cannot not support this girl. It is insane. The record breaker that she hit was from the freaking logo, man. It's insane what she does with the basketball. She has no limitations on how far she can shoot the basketball and expect it to go in. She utilizes her teammates. I think her assist to turnover ratio is a little high for the amount, just the workload that she has, but she's a good passer. She can get it done. She forces it a little much. I think that's where some of her turnovers come into play. But pure shooting, you won't find a better girl in the game right now, but Caitlin Clark is just on another level at this stage right now. And man, I'm pretty sure she's got another year of eligibility too.
But that's the cool thing with her is she does take those risks, but it leads to such epic shots, and it puts on a show that we haven't really seen in women's college basketball like this before.
And she's selling out arenas even on the road. Like, there are young girls, 10, 11, 12 years old, that are dying to see this superstar that is like them. Caitlin Clark coming out of relative obscurity, basically, and just electrifying women's basketball, women in sports. It's not talked about enough. We all hear on social media and all over the place how the WNBA is, it's not good enough basketball to put butts in the chairs. And it needs to change, because you have athletes like Caitlin Clark that are doing stuff like this. And it's so good to see, the sellout crowds every night when Iowa takes the floor because of her. Caitlin Clark is something special that we have never seen at the women's game, apart from maybe like Sue Bird or Diana Taurasi, but that's a few decades ago, before we had social media and whatnot. So it's really good to see. I love supporting women's athletics. I mean, I wish I could talk about the PWHL, but we just don't have that kind of time. And it's so good to see the support for women's athletics.
Absolutely. The whole women's athletics aren't as good, as definitely becoming more of an archaic take, and that's great to see. And man, the representation that Caitlin Clark brings, it's like you said, it's fantastic for the sport, fantastic for the fans. We saw a really cool event happen this weekend in the NBA All-Star weekend. Steph Curry went up against Sabrina Ionescu for the 3-point contest. Steph won 29-26. It was an electric showing. And there's rumors that Caitlin could join next year to be on Team Steph, and then Sabrina would get Damian Lillard on her team, the guy who won the 3-point contest this year. And I think that would be amazing. I want to see that badly.
That's pretty freaking awesome to hear, man. I didn't know about that.
And she shot from the men's 3-point line, mind you. So
Sabrina's always said that she shoots from the men's line even in practice. So, that's form practice, and that's what she's got to do, and she does it really well.
The skills competition is something I would be okay if they just did without. We haven't seen a good dunk contest in a few years, and I think I mentioned it last year too. Nothing's going to beat Aaron Gordon versus Zach LaVine. Nothing is ever going to come close to that anymore. And it had been a few years before we had a good one before that. So not really looking forward to any of the stuff that happens over the weekend, except for the Celebrity All-Star Game. That thing was lit. That thing was so cool. Literally, the court, it's an LED court. I don't ever want to see them use it in an actual NBA game, but in a Celebrity All-Star Game, that thing was awesome.
I did like the what do they call it, crunch time or whatever?
Yeah.
Did the 4-point plays and whatnot. I will admit that was kind of cool. Kind of crazy how up and down that game was too, though. Just points after points after points. But like we said, Jordan, we talked about it last week. The NHL All-Star, like the skills competition, it's the weekend overall is pretty meh, and I think the NBA could do with a nice little revamp of their All-Star weekend as well.
I could see that LED technology being utilized in maybe not the NBA, but maybe something like a minor league entertainment only type style league, almost how the XFL used to be back in the day, where it was purely entertainment, not really so much about the sport. I could see it with something like that. There's something there. It was cool. I didn't like it in the 3-point contest when they did the starry court, the soda starry, the green and yellow, because the whole court was just green and yellow and the lights weren't really on the players, so it was weird looking. It wasn't appealing to the eye, especially when you had Donovan Mitchell in his Cleveland Cavaliers jersey, red and gold, burgundy red and gold didn't go with those colors at all. It was hard on the eyes, man. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I got you. It makes sense. I mean, it definitely is like the celebrity game is all about, celebs getting to show off a little bit and put their skills to the test. So, I mean, I wonder if we could even like, I don't know. I don't know if the G League could benefit from it or something like that, but you know, it's pretty cool, if used in the right kind of context.
One thing I do want to brag about a little bit real quick. I wish Jackson was on to share in this glory, but we did have a small bet. My boy Puka Nakua was on Shannon Sharp's team in the Celebrity All-Star game, and he had not one but two amazing slam dunks. His boy CJ Stroud was on Stephen A. Smith's team. Well, Team Shannon won, so Jackson lost a bet to me. We made a small bet, a small donation to the charity of the other person's choice. So, Jackson, I appreciate you donating to my charity. My charity of choice was the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Most of you guys know I have a son with type 1 diabetes, juvenile diabetes. Just quick plug for them. 2.1 million people in the U.S. are expected to have T1D by the year 2040. Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation works tirelessly to find better treatments, preventions, and ultimately a cure for T1D and its complications through critical research. Every dollar donated to them goes directly towards research from its donors. So, Jackson, thank you. Appreciate you, buddy.
Good job, Jackson. Well, Jordan, you know how big of a college basketball fan I am versus the NBA with you guys. One thing that I want to mention about college basketball, we're just a few weeks away from Selection Sunday. I've been following the season since it started. And like I said, 3 weeks away from Selection Sunday. And I still have no better of an idea of who's going to be in the Final Four than I did in November. Because the parity at this stage in men's basketball is unbelievable. It is insane the number of unranked teams that have gone on the road and knocked off ranked teams, or just unranked teams holding down their own fort and beating these top 5, top 10 teams. It's insane, Jordan, and I love it. I absolutely love it. The parity and the craziness that is men's college basketball. Really, the only thing that's staying consistent is the UConn men are just dominating everybody. They just took number 4 Marquette by 28 points this past weekend. Auburn beat South Carolina by 40. Oh, I can't wait till Selection Sunday, man.
My whole December, every day I was getting notifications. Upset, like 3 or 4 a day, man. All these teams getting knocked around.
It's crazy, too, because we saw, Houston and Purdue were both top 2 in the country. They lost to unranked teams on the same night back in January. That was Houston's first loss. First time we'd seen that in over 7 years. The top 2 teams losing to unranked opponents on the same night. It's just, you can't expect anything. Any given day, any given night, we talk about it with football, any given Sunday. But in basketball, it's literally every single night. You could see a team like Detroit Mercy go in and knock off UConn. Probably not that drastic, but I mean, kudos to Detroit Mercy, by the way. A little plug-in on them. They finally got their first win. Big boys in Detroit. They're, they've only won 2 less games than the Pistons have. So congrats to them. Anyway, yeah, so now we only have one winless team in men's basketball, Mississippi Valley State. Jerry Rice's alma mater, oddly enough. But it's awesome to see the inconsistency of every single team. I mean, I can't really talk. Oklahoma State is awful this year. But they did just beat number 19 BYU this past weekend. It comes out of nowhere. Never know what to expect from night to night, and it's awesome. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Parker Bird, but he is an inspiration to all, Jordan. First ever D1 player to play with a prosthetic device. His leg was amputated several years ago in a boating accident. And he took the plate for East Carolina in their win over Rider on Friday night in the season opener. It was a 16-2 blowout, but that does not diminish the fact that this kid took the plate with a prosthetic leg, ready to play Division I baseball. He walked, unfortunately, walked. Didn't get to do much other than that. He didn't play the rest of the weekend in East Carolina's sweep, but I cannot say enough positive, inspirational things about this young man. He is incredible. Just to come back from that tragic event to getting back to the, a position where he could play college Division I college athletics, which is no small feat in itself.
Yeah, and we talked about representation earlier with Caitlin Clark as well. How about this representation? Parker Bird, man, the journey that he must have gone through to get to where he is. That's awesome. And walks aren't nothing, man. That's getting on base. I did a lot of walking in Little League, so I knew the pitchers were pretty erratic, so I'm like, why am I going to swing at this?
Honestly, we probably won't see him play a whole lot this year. Really, realistically, East Carolina is a regional host type team. They're going to be a top 20 team most of the season, so they've got the talent to really shine in conference or in the American Athletic Conference. So I think he's a definitely reserve type player, which is understandable given the situation that he's in. But to just see him on the roster, let alone actually playing in games, I don't know. There's something that gives me it brings a tear to my eye, and it gives just this sense of acceptance and finally inspiration within college athletics.
A lot of drama out in Arizona as we begin spring training. Full teams have arrived. We're going to start games on Thursday, I believe. But let's take a look at Angels camp, Jesse. Oddly enough, that's the camp that's making a lot of noise. We thought we would hear more about the Dodgers or the Yankees. No, the Angels camp. Maybe not for the right reasons, mind you. So there were a couple of interviews that happened, specifically with Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon. Mike Trout sticking to his guns, saying he wants to be loyal to the Angels and that he wants to win a championship there, and breaking that contract would be the easy way out. Jesse, we've known this for a while, that this is what he wants to do. This is his desire, is to stay there, win a championship. The man has yet to win a playoff game there, to no fault of his own, but just shows how poorly the organization has been run over the last decade plus.
Yeah, I mean, as much, I've always been a big Trout supporter. The issue for me with Trout, saying what he's saying is, he hasn't been on the field, for a full season in quite some time either. So, he's not exactly putting in the work to really help this team every single day because he can't stay healthy. And, I don't remember exactly what he said word for word, but, obviously he wants to bring a championship to Los Angeles, to the Angels organization. Every player in every sport and every level wants to win a championship of whatever they're, playing for. That's the goal. That's why we play sports, to win. But when you're not putting your team in a position to win, and you're not on the field to help your team win, you can't, in my opinion, really make comments that are referencing the fact that you are in this for the long haul, in this to bring this team a championship. You have to be there to get that done. You have to be on the field. You have to produce. You have to get, XYZ number of hits, home runs, whatever. So I think it was a little callous by Trout, in my opinion, even though he's one of my favorite players. I didn't really care for it. I don't know how you feel personally.
That's an interesting take. I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I think that a lot of Angels fans, no matter what happens, are going to view Mike Trout as, a savior of the organization, if you will. Especially now that Shohei Ohtani is up in Los Angeles, the real Los Angeles,
and Los Angeles proper.
Yeah. But I digress. I think that Mike Trout, hell of a player, obviously, first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the greatest to ever put on a uniform. But to your point, yeah, what is he doing to help them win? Not much. Not being able to stay healthy isn't going to do anything, to your point. But I want to talk about a guy who really is never healthy, Anthony Rendon. We mentioned it a few weeks ago. Talk about how he doesn't play more than 60 games a year, really, ever since he signed that contract with the LA Angels. He also mentioned in his comments that baseball is a job. It will never come before faith. It will never come before family. Baseball is something that he has to do because it's a job. When prodded further, he told reporters, "I answered your question. Stop trying to get more out of me. Let's move on." And this might sound like a weird take because while I don't agree with his tactics or his lack of tact with the reporter, he's not wrong. At the end of the day, it is just a job. But that's not the kind of guy I want on my team. If I'm an Angels fan, I'm livid. I'm upset. I want this man traded. I want to get as much as I can back for him. But are there really going to be any takers after he says comments like that?
Absolutely not. I mean, dude, I can't wrap my head around him really saying that. Yes, in the grand scheme of things, Major League Baseball is the business. These players are employees of this business. But if it was just a job, you or I would do it. We would play a sport for the rest of our lives instead of doing our day-to-day 9-to-5 freaking job.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this job every day for the rest of my life. I want to play baseball. That would not be a job. What?
I love my job, but I would play baseball in a heartbeat if I could.
Oh yeah, over that for sure. It's just something that I cannot honestly believe he said those things in front of the media, no less. And I'm not gonna disagree that he was right for the shade he threw towards the reporter for they continually prodded him for more information on what he was saying. He answered their question. It's like they become paparazzi where, answer this, it's just move on. He answered your question. That's all you're going to get. Just move on. And so that part really upset me. And I don't fault Rendon for that whatsoever, but you're right. I don't want this guy on my team if he's going to act like this isn't something he loves. If he doesn't love this game, love this career, why are you doing it? If faith and family are more important to you every single day, family's the most important thing to me too. But I still have to make money to make ends meet. Anthony Rendon is not in that position. He is beyond wealthy. He can quit and be just fine. So if this is just a job to you, do something else. Well, Jordan, I think before we close out the show, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about what happened last Wednesday in Kansas City. Just a purely tragic event. I don't want to say anything more or less on the motives, temptations, or the political side of the event. A woman lost her life and 22 other people were injured in this just tragic, senseless act of violence, an unnecessary act of violence. It's hard to put into words that we are talking about something like this, something as celebratory as this in this context. But I think like I said, it goes without saying that we need to shed some light on it and at least, mention it before we peel off the air here today.
Yeah, Jesse. Lisa Lopez Galvin was a mother of two, an avid Kansas City Chiefs fan, and a local radio DJ in the Kansas City area, doing the jobs that you and I aspire to, being in the media, right? Nobody should have to fear for their lives when they're doing something as celebratory as this, when they're cheering on their favorite team, just winning a championship. One of the best moments of her life turned into one of the family's worst. It angers me beyond compare to see something like this happen. But more than that, I empathize with the family because I put myself in those shoes and I can't imagine what they're going through. All of our thoughts, all of our prayers, all of our deepest condolences to this family and to the families of everybody involved. And more importantly, I do want to shed light on the heroes of this event, the people that took down the assailants. Specifically, I do want to talk as well about Taylor Swift donating money, the Hunt family donating money. And then in the event itself, I got to give props to a guy that gets clowned on a lot, Jackson Mahomes, who actually took kids under his wing while everything was going on and said everything was going to be okay, helped the kids find their parents. So to everybody involved, thank you for stepping up, being heroes in the situation when it was called for. And one day, hopefully soon, no one's ever going to have to be scared to go out to events like this and fear for their lives.
What else can I say, man? Another great episode of the Circus Catch. It's been a blast doing it from this location, but I'm so excited to do it in a few more weeks from Wisconsin. Jordan, California is your home. I don't know enough. I can't say enough about how great it is to have you hosting as the best host. Not used to signing off for you, but from Tulare, California, Stillwater, Oklahoma. Thank you guys so much for watching the Circus Catch, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.
Sayonara, folks. I always want to say, that's all, folks.
Do it in the, what's his name?
In the Porky Pig voice?
Porky Pig. Gosh, damn.
I can't. I'm too scared.